Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote. Hello, welcome to Across the Park podcast. Myself, Ian Mills, and Gary Judge. We are not in the Pod Cafe studios this week because tomorrow, or Wednesday, I should say, we are going down to Finch Farm to interview one of the players of the Everton women's team. So we're using our resources for that. So look out for that show this week when we're talking to one of the players and we're going to big Crystal Palace game at Walton Hall Park this Saturday. But we want to talk about men's football, first of all. Anyone who's seen the instant match reaction will have seen me and Judgy sort of struggle to get excited by the point. And it's funny because me and Judgy have said for a couple of years now that we want to get to Goodison Park and not be fighting for our lives. And so, in hindsight, Judgy, we sort of summed up that it was a bit of a dull game, and we did give a bit of credit to the manager. So we're a few days removed from that now. Has your thoughts changed on what you've seen on Saturday?
No, not really. Obviously, a lot of the attention was on the other half of Merseyside yesterday, and I'm glad to say that we're not disappointed by that result either. But yeah, I think the result in isolation is a good point. I don't think it was a great performance, as we said. I think West Ham coming were very organised, very difficult to break down. They had Bowen and Kudos on the other side that were giving us problems. I think when all said and done, I would definitely take the point. I think there's the positives to take from it, as I said, in the instant match reaction are, we're getting a few more players back in positions that we've been weak in, and we've had a lack of depth. So it'll be good to see Chemt get some minutes between now and the end of the season. Yeah. I don't think the minutes that Brozier is going to give us anything more than, again, an extra body. I can't see us extending that loan beyond the end of the season, but looking forward to getting obviously Element and Dye back in the next few weeks as well. So yeah, I think there were some positives in. I think Tim Orabunam, as we said in the instant match reaction, made a big difference, and it'll be interesting.
Yeah, lots of energy.
Now to see if he plays more minutes, and I think that should be the case. I mean, another thing we can discuss off the back of, it's only rumours at the moment, but it seems more than rumours that Doucoure's spell at the club is not going to be extended.
Yeah.
Which you would think would open the door to Irabunam playing, again, more games between now and the end of the season, and maybe, Doucoure stepping out. But yeah, I think there's definitely positives to take from the game. The fact we've obviously got back in it and almost nicked it at the end as well is definitely positive. And I'm not, my opinion, my feeling hasn't changed too much. It wasn't an exciting game, but I think it's a good point when all said and done.
Yeah, we've got on the face of it, a tough run coming up in April. I think we've got Arsenal and Manchester City at Goodison. So I think naturally the team's performance will be a bit different, and that'll engage the crowd a bit more. There'll be a lot more Everton trying to fight in those games, and really West Ham are a difficult team to play because they're in transition as well. You could see at half-time they came out different. Their manager obviously wasn't happy with what they'd done. I think it was just a weird game. Talked about the atmosphere as well, didn't we? It felt like everybody was not really buoyed by anything. There was nothing to really get going. There was a great display again by the 1878 in the Park End this time, but it was a weird game. And what I do think, a name you mentioned there, and I think the game was sort of made for him and highlighted how we're missing him. I think Illiman and Dye would have been a big difference. So getting him back is going to be quite crucial going into these games. Another name you mentioned, and I want to get your opinion on because you never spoke too much on the instant match. I thought he made a big impact, and he looks like a big unit now as well. Youssef Chemt was involved in the goal, and he was having a battle up there. What did you make of the minutes that Chemt got on Saturday?
I did actually mention Chemt. I don't think you've watched it back, but I think you're the first person I mentioned that Chemt come on and that made the difference. But yeah, you're right. His physicality is definitely going to be something that will give us an extra edge. I mean, Beto's physicality is a bit different. I think we've said that since he come into the team. He's not a person who kind of, goes past players, is he? He runs in behind and he puts himself about. But he's not someone who's going to, go and drive you forward with his pace. Whereas I think Chemit's shown that he could, and a few really good efforts on goal. I think he's a player since we signed him. He certainly always looked like he's got technical ability. He's got a good first touch. He's got good balance, change of direction and all that. But he's just always looked like he's a little bit off the pace. I think he now looks like someone who's adjusted to English football, and to look as sharp as he did, given how long he's been out for, it is really encouraging for us and for him. And yeah, credit to him. I definitely think he made a difference in terms of giving us more of a cutting edge, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play more minutes. I think where it's going to be interesting is where he plays. I think had the score not been 1-0, Moyes might have been tempted to take Beto off and bring him on. But I think the fact that we were chasing the game, he didn't want to be seen to be negative by taking off a striker, obviously for another one and making a straight change. But I thought he looked a threat in that wide position. I thought he'd be someone who's a bit more suited to playing off a striker than being the main man. Particularly while he's still developing his game as a young player.
The run of fixtures that we've got coming up and the two other home games that scream out to me are Ipswich and then the big Southampton one. I think they're perfect games for him, because we were saying last year, weren't we, maybe loan Chemt out to a championship team, and with all due respect, Ipswich and Southampton are going to be championship sides. I think that would be a good chance to maybe get him. But I think you're right on Brozier. I don't really see us using him much unless it's a situation where you're throwing him on with another striker to chase a game. So yeah, Chemt, I think it will be nice to see Chemt. The only other player I wanted to highlight, and I don't think he was at the races at all, is James Garner. I thought he was poor on Saturday. Moyes, in his first spell, would drop players who had poor games. Do you see a situation now where a couple of players might be looking at not getting a game in the Merseyside derby, which is our next game, or do you think Moyes will stick with primarily the side that he's been picking most weeks?
I would say so. Yeah, I think there are going to be games that players come out of it maybe after the Merseyside derby. I don't think even Evertonians will probably forgive him for not, making an array of changes when this team in general has produced good performances. Have obviously shown again that they can be tough to beat. I mean, there wasn't much in the game. I know West Ham obviously got the first goal and that put them in the ascendancy, but I don't think either side were outstanding. So I don't think it was an awful performance. It was just a bit flat. And I think as you alluded to then, I think the games against City, against Arsenal, obviously Liverpool, you're not going to get that same flatness for obvious reasons that the players will find naturally get up for it, and the fans will. Look, we've got to accept, and we did after the game. We weren't really, the fans generally weren't really that up for it. It wasn't one where we were really making an effort to push the players forward. It was one I think that most fans were happy to watch, and maybe not too. I don't think it would have been it's fair to say, I think if a game was a finish 1-0, it wouldn't have been booze, was it? It'd have just been like, never mind. It's just not our day today. So no, I don't think it'll be a game that he'll be too tempted to make, massive changes. Maybe it's a like for like, as you say, maybe a Garner for Irabunum, maybe another wide player that comes in. But I think what he was trying to play with on Saturday for me, obviously by dropping Jesper Lindstrom in place of Charlie Alcaraz, he was trying to get another midfielder in there, wasn't he? Trying to see if he can be a bit more solid in there, which I think that's something that I think most Evertonians are a bit surprised by, as we haven't been solid, have we, so far under Moyes? It has been a bit more expansive than maybe we've seen in his first spell. Maybe he's not quite happy with that. I think he was looking at Alcaraz in a bit of a Leon Osman type position. Doucoure's been playing more the Kale, hasn't he? And I think he wanted someone to kind of tuck in a bit more and give us a bit more domination in the middle of the pitch. And West Ham, to be fair, were good in midfield. I really like Souček. He's a big unit, and I think he got, he won a lot of them battles in there, which, I think Moyes, that's an area of the pitch I think that Moyes would like us to be a bit stronger in.
We spoke about this a couple of episodes ago, but a bit of news has changed since. So March the 1st, Everton, the deadline to trigger a 1-year extension on Abdoulaye Doucoure's contract passed, and Everton didn't trigger it. A couple of journalists said that doesn't mean Everton don't want to keep him, but he's just on an inflated salary that would need to be looking at. Credible newspaper Le Crip over in France, I've said now Doucoure will be leaving Everton at the end of the season. We'll speak out Doucoure a bit more in depth at the end of the season, because I think he deserves it. Some of the goals he scored and some of the moments he's had have been really important. But are you surprised that that this is seemingly coming to an end? Did you think that maybe would get one more year with Doucoure?
I think we both agreed that we wouldn't be disappointed to see Doucoure in our squad next year. I think it's the time has come. I think for us to move on and try and upgrade that position. And let's be honest, he's come up with some massive goals for the club. But in general, he's been hot and cold for a while. Doucoure, he had a good spell when Dyche came in, and obviously, those goals at Brighton, that performance at Brighton was one of the best I've seen from any Everton player in that position for a long time. But aside from that, I think he has generally flattered to deceive. He's been a brilliant servant to the club. There's no doubt about that. And I don't think any Evertonian would begrudge him another contract. But you would suggest that Doucoure probably wants more than a year, and I don't think that's something the club are willing to give him. And I wouldn't disagree with that either. So I think that the sticking point's probably been around the length of the contract, and we're probably only willing to give him one more year, as just maybe just to fill a gap in there. But I wouldn't be. I think given all of us two in particular have said that this is a big summer for us in terms of hopefully having a little bit more money to spend with some of those PSR issues behind us and a lot of players being out of contract. I think if there's one season that we're going to do that turnover and a bit of churn and bring some new players in, particularly going into a new season, this is probably it. And if Doucoure's not up for 1 year or up for maybe taking a drop in his wages to fit in with that, then fair play, thank you, and goodbye.
Question on we'll talk about Goodison Park because there was rumours a couple of weeks back. The Athletic put a little piece in to say that Everton were looking at moving Everton's women's team to play Goodison Park. We spoke to someone at the club to try and get the exclusive, and we're just told, look, nothing's official. Basically, I can't say now. Obviously, a number of things. Colin Chong has then came out last week, and he's not confirmed it, but he's basically said, he came out in his words where that Goodison Park is fit to and can host our women's team for the next 10 to 15 years. So the big wigs are talking about it. So it's in play. Would you be happy to see Everton women's team playing at Goodison? Pros and cons. I don't think they'll fill it. So I don't know what it'll look like visibly, what it'll feel like. Pros are that it'll be Goodison Park and it's still there and we still get to keep it. What are your thoughts on that? Were you surprised when you heard about it?
I can't say I was surprised to hear that the Goodison's going to stick around, because I think it's always been bizarre that there's been nothing mentioned about the what happens to it. I think the closest similarity I can think of is Highbury. That Highbury was as old as not quite as old, but as old as Goodison in terms of where it was, and everybody knew from an early stage what the plans for Highbury were. Nobody's ever said anything about Goodison, and I think it's been a bit bizarre that it's never been pushed, by the fans or by groups. I mean, it may have been, but I've not heard anything about it. It was just how everyone just given. It was a given that okay, they must have plans for it. In terms of the women moving into it, I think it's incredible for the women first and foremost. I mean, they would be the only team, as I know, in the WSL who have an all-purpose stadium that's just theirs. I mean, there's smaller examples, but most of them, if not all of them, share their grounds or use a non-league grounds or low league grounds or occasionally use the men's stadium. So it'd be an incredible step forward. I do think it would need some development. I'm not saying development make it bigger, but I think some adaptations. Yeah, for me, you're never going to need the top balcony. I doubt you're ever going to need, the upper bullens. I mean, if they could kind of lower them all to one tier all the way around and maintain the authenticity of the stadium, that would be I think it would be a worthy.
You could do that. I think you could. You could do that. I think what you're saying there. I think if you could somehow, the top balcony roof is now on the main stands, and you've got the family enclosure, you've got your main stand, hospitality. I think you'll always keep the park ends because it's the best stand that we've got there. I think the lower Gladys Street would be somewhere people continually want to sit.
Yeah.
And I think the Bullens roadside could almost become media only. You could rip the seats up and you could have it as the media gantry, and make a big massive gantry, and no fans are on that side. Similar to how to do Walpole Park now. There's no fans on the dugout side. And the upper Gladys Streets can be open or closed ad hoc as to whether you need it or not. And I think the visual of the family enclosure being full, and two behind the goals being semi-full. Look, Everton women sold out Walton Park last Friday. You couldn't get in. That's 2,000 sellouts. This is the first time this season. They're on a bit of a good run, and we've always said it's going to get bigger, that the women's game, and you can visibly see it. I just think I'm just really excited by not driving past and seeing it being demolished.
It's a different proposition as well, isn't it? You know, as you say, you're getting they're selling out Walton Park at the moment with 2,000 fans, but there would be more people up for going, and you've seen it when they play the Goodison. Obviously, there has been bigger crowds, and there always is when Liverpool play at Anfield. So I think it will be a different proposition. It will definitely attract fans because it is a stadium as opposed to, with respect, standing in the park. And obviously, it's set up around the stadium in terms of the parking. It's not equipped at Walton Park, and it's a nightmare trying to park around there if you go in the game, even with 2,000 fans. So, listen, I think the bottom line is I'd definitely be supportive of it. It would be strange because you're kind of leaving Goodison, but you're not leaving Goodison. But it would be nice to keep that as part of the club in some way, shape, or form. Look, ultimately, it's going to come down to finances. It can't be a cheap place to keep open. It can't be a cheap place on a match day to service. So they are going to have to make adaptations to the service, the way they maintain the ground, the pitch, etc. To now, because they can't continue to service two stadiums surely. And I don't imagine. Well, in fact, I know that the revenues in the women's game are nowhere near what the men see at the moment. So maybe there's something on the horizon there. Maybe there's the WSL have got a big sponsor coming in, and the Americans are aware of that. Obviously, the owners, the Vegan Group, have shown with Roma that they're willing to invest in the women, and they see the benefit that Roma have kicked on under their stewardship. So it doesn't surprise me to hear that they're backing the women. For one, they've already done it in the January window, and they've said from the get-go they want to do that. This is a big investment, though. This is a big statement. So watch the space, I guess. But yeah, in short, I'm supportive of it.
We're going to spend a lot of time on Thelwell. We'll spend 15-20 minutes on Thelwell, but before we get there, just sticking with that theme of possible deconstruction, construction, people moving, people buying lands. Nelson Dock has been confirmed again by our interim CEO at the time, Colin Chong, who's staying on the Everton board as well. He's going to be a big part of that area, the regeneration of what and the. So Nelson Dock, for anyone who doesn't know, is adjacent to where Bramley Moor Dock is. I initially thought they're going to build a little women's stadium and an under-21 stadium, similar to how City have done it. But then the news of Goodison Park broke. And I thought, okay, so what else can they be putting there? I think they're going to look, because it's on the south stand, big. I think they're going to build that back. I think they want to increase the capacity already based on the demand. People are locked out already. You can't get a season ticket next season. There's a waiting list. What do you think? Does that make sense to you, or do you think they're doing something else there?
I mean, I think it's a strategic investment. I don't think they're going to extend yet. I wouldn't imagine that it's going to be an extension to say. My feeling was it was going to be hotel, retail. I think a hotel would certainly in that area of the city be attractive anyway. The Titanic obviously does really well, which is just over the road. It's closer to town. That would be my feeling, is it's going to be an extension of the retail side. Now, if you have the land, obviously it's then your gift to do what you want, and maybe they're thinking, look, if we don't buy it now, someone else is going to buy it, and we're going to be tenants of that land, or we're going to be trying to wrestle it back off them. So maybe it's just the timing of it going, well, let's get it now while we've got the chance. It obviously then gives them the option to extend that south stand and make it bigger if they want to in the future. And they're looking at, I guess, other clubs and who picked up stadiums, new stadiums, and the issues they've maybe had in the future to developing if they don't own all of the attainable lands in the area. So maybe at the moment it's let's purchase the land and we've got the option to do what we want. But I think the first move would be a hotel and an extended retail area before they maybe look at the extending the stands.
Yeah, and last one on Bramley Moor. We're both going to test events next Sunday. I was fortunate enough in the ballot. I don't know how, because I'm the most unluckiest person ever. I was fortunate enough to get it one for the first game. You never. So this is going to be your first time. You're looking forward to getting in there?
Yeah, really excited. And I think without, certainly without belittling the first event, because obviously it was the first event. So anyone who went to the first event was luckier than me because they seen it before I did in that situation. But I think what we're hearing about this next event in terms of, we know there's going to be a bigger crowd there. we know there's going to be more kind of, you know, real match day experiences going on in this one. I think it's one that most people are a little bit more excited about. Not least the fact it's you know, it's on a weekend as well. So it's, you know what I mean. I think there's a bit more, I think, of a real feeling to this one.
I just hope the weather's nice because it was freezing on the first one. If anyone watched the vlog that I did with my little boy, his teeth were chattering. I just hope it's going to be a lot warmer.
I just hope you'll invest in a coat, Millsy, because anyone knows Millsy never wears a coat. Seen him again the week, obviously during the instant match, and he's got a little thin jacket on all the time. So yeah, might have to start a Patreon up and see if people invest it.
I'm all about donations, mate. But it'll be going to the Mills Pizza Fund, and we'll be going to the Mills Coat Fund. Trust me. Yeah, but I think we're going to try and maybe do a few videos for our socials, aren't we, on Sunday as well? So if you look out for that on Across the Park PC, me and Judgy will try and, because we're not sitting together, so we'll have different experiences of the views and the getting in and out and things. So we'll try and put some up. So keep your eyes out for that on Sunday. Kevin Thelwell, Judgy, it was announced a couple of weeks back that at the end of the season, he won't be kept on as director of football. Everton are moving away from that model. We're bringing in a CEO from Leeds who's been hands-on with the playing side of things at Leeds. David Moyes will sit aside him as some form of transfer committee. We were told that Kevin Thelwell was going to stay on till the end of the season. Now, I don't know if he is or he isn't now, because he's done this big, nice statement, sort of saying goodbye. I don't think his voice is going to be loud enough now to be doing the job that he was initially brought in to do. Maybe he's there to do the day-to-day operations for now, I don't know, but he's been moved on. He's not going to be our director of football. When you look back at the job he's done over the 3 years, you can suit any narrative to any argument. You can say he signings good as bad, and you can put the details behind them as much as you want. I think for me, Judge, the fact remains that when he came in January 2023, we were on our knees, and we're still in the Premier League. We've got some good players on the pitch that you would like Everton to keep and build around. Financially, we're okay. One of the PSR breaches happened on his watch, if truth be told, but he came into a building that was almost burning down. How do you reflect on the job that Thelwell done? Are you appreciative of it, or did you want more?
I mean, I would argue with any Evertonian who would say that Kevin Thelwell's done a poor job. I think, like as you say, then the context of an incredibly difficult and, you know, tumultuous situation that he come into, you know, a board that was, you know, literally in tatters, no real finances to work with, loads of players on inflated wages, you know, the wrong side of 28, 29, some players not even willing to get on the pitch, even if they were fit, you know, things like the managers and you know, there's just been so much he's had to deal with, and I've got a lot of respect and gratitude for the job he's done. Listen, he's made a few suspect signings, but I think, and you know, there's data out there to say actually the squad's age is slightly higher than it was when he first come in. However, the value of the squad now compared to what it was, and some of the players that we've managed to retain during that period, okay, maybe there wasn't the right offers and stuff like that, but I would have been surprised if someone told me 3 years ago when he came in that we'd still have the likes of Jordan Pickford and even a year or so ago, Jared Brandtwaite, etc. I think Ilman and Dye, we've said it a few times, is one of the most exciting signings that this club has made, that made an impact on the pitch in a long time. You know, there have been signings that have maybe flattered this evening. 6 months ago, or even less, you'd have put Beto in that category, but now actually he wasn't that bad as a player. It just wasn't maybe suited to the previous manager. He did appoint Sean Dyche, and you know, despite the way it went a little bit sour at the end, it was a fantastic appointment. It was an appointment that again kept this club and you know, retained the club's position in the Premier League, which is priceless. So yeah, listen, I think you said at the end then, was it like to have seen more? Yeah, probably. But I think everyone always has, you know, higher expectations for this club than maybe is realistic. But I think from my point of view, I'm very grateful for the job he's done, and I think it's been it's a good outcome. You know, where we are now to where we were 3 years ago, I think you've got to be satisfied with that in general.
Yeah, look, I think I said he came in January 23 at the start. It wasn't. I think it was February 22. He came
22.
just after Lampard came in. He came after. Yeah. Look, I completely agree with everything you said there. I did want a bit more, but I'm also really, really grateful. And I can't look back and go, you should have done more. I think I just expected a bit more, and that's two different things. I can look back at other people left the club and gone, you should have done more. But I just hoped for a bit more, like the Onana spin where we brought a young player in. We spun him for profit. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of that, but I know that's not an easy thing to do. You can't just go and buy these players and spin them. I think he bought players in for the sake of it sometimes. Danjuma, Morpay, and they just weren't Everton players. And
I think that though, and you're right there. I think those two signings are good examples. But you think about the context of the squad at that point of view, and they were bodies. And I think it's probably the manager going, listen, I need another body. I think Lampard was quite open in saying that, look, I told him I need a striker. And it was like, we're working our way down the list, and eventually we got ourselves some Morpay. It was no two ways about it. It was a pretty disastrous signing.
It was, absolutely, yeah.
I like Danjuma on loan though, and even like to this season, Jesper Lindstrom certainly not being a great signing, but they're filling gaps, aren't they, in the squad?
Yeah, and to stick with the theme of that, I get the impression that him and the manager were in lines on a few signings. He maybe brought signings in that the manager didn't want, and
Jake O'Brien being one of them. You'd probably say for Dyche as well.
Yeah, it was O'Brien. I'd say O'Brien. I'd say Dyche didn't like Beto. I'd say Dyche didn't like Lindstrom, really. Dyche didn't like Danjuma. Certainly didn't like Danjuma. So I don't know, that maybe a little more alignment with the manager, but you know, it's one of those things. You look back in the bigger picture, like I said, is I think he's fought fires that no director of football has been fighting fires on with the amount of turmoil. Everton didn't have one problem; they had a list of them, serious problems. We were hemorrhaging money. We had the Premier League almost trying to relegate us, which would have been catastrophe. We had a stadium not built. We had a chairman who passed away whilst being banned from the club by his own supporters. An owner who had checked out completely and didn't support him. So we had this crap end. We always say Dyche had the shitty end of the stick, but I think Thelwell certainly had the crappy end of the stick. And what I would like to say, Judge, is if you look at some of the players who we tried to bring in, you know, Gyökeres from Coventry, who's now ripping it up over in Portugal. We were in for him. Willie Nonto, a good player. Mohamed Kudus. Those players he identified there, and you know, if you get them over the line, we're having a different conversation, aren't we?
Of course, yeah. So the finances, I think, were the biggest blocker in those ones. And going back to like not being aligned with the manager, let's be honest, we ended up having to appoint managers to just get the team out of a pickle, the club, and it wasn't like we couldn't have a strategic view on that. I think if Kevin Thelwell walked through the door with Lampard in charge, and someone said to him, "Look, we're going to have to move on from Frank Lampard in 12 months' time," you wouldn't think it would be to get the club out of the shit.
Yeah.
You'd think it would be, okay, well, all right, well, let's... So I don't think he had to respond to circumstance. And I think that, you know, the job that Sean Dyche had to come in and do wasn't a job that I don't think Kevin Thelwell foresaw being the future of this club. But I think that's equally part of the job. You know, sometimes you've got to deal with with the hand you dealt. Sometimes you've got to work with the hand you dealt. And I don't think, you know, the performances of some key players and some experienced pros not being what they were, that's not something that the director of football can influence that much. So, yeah, I think if you go back and let's say, for instance, Lampard was able to continue the decent start that he had and was able to produce some of the results he has at Coventry now as well. That could have made Kevin Thelwell's reign completely different. But we are where we are, and I said, going back to the start of it, we're in a stable position on the pitch, off the pitch. I've got no doubt that he's had to play a huge part in trying to convince these owners as well to come in. You know, he's had various people looking at the club, some that were less desirable than others, and he would have had to play a key part in that. There's no doubt. But there've been numerous interviews around, you know, what have you seen, what do you think, etc. And again, I think he's been integral in keeping this club on a steady play, on a level playing field now.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're right. There's the stuff that we as supporters don't see and don't want to see. We don't want to see the operational side of things. We want it just to run and just for it to tick and for Everton to improve on that side of things. But yeah, I think operationally and commercially, Everton have improved under him. I think his transfer windows were getting better. I think when the first window came in, any sign like Ruben Vinagre and Neil Maupay, like, oh my God. And then you get, he brought in Onana, which was the one we spun. I think last summer's transfer window was better. We've improved. So I think as the purse strings got a bit looser, he started getting a bit better with the signings as well. But like I said at the start, we're announced we're moving away from that model. We're not going to have a director of football. Are you okay with that?
I mean, you've got to trust the owners, haven't you, to some extent? And I think I don't think David Moyes will have played a small part in that. I think David Moyes would have been quite vocal about what he would prefer when he came in, and obviously, he was certainly been quite vocal with what he preferred to work with going forwards, and I think you've got to give the manager or the first team coach, whoever it is that we've got in charge at this moment in time, you've got to give them an opportunity to state the preferences. And I think it's not to say that we won't have a director of football in a year's time or 2 years' time. I think, but at the moment, the most important person at the club above those 11 players on the pitch is the manager. And we've got to allow the manager to work, in it, or to be content with the structure he's working in. If the manager doesn't perform, I think that'll be something that the boards and the CEO who's now coming in will want to look at. But it's not a way of doing things that you would bring a director of football in and then a CEO. The CEO is the person who I think in a year's time is going to decide whether this club needs a director of football. But I think for the time being, you want to bring your CEO first, allow the CEO to look at the structure and decide what's best going forward. And I don't think we've got that level of expertise at the moment. And obviously bringing in Angus Kinnear, who's worked at Leeds recently, West Ham, Arsenal. He's certainly got the credentials to be able to decide what this club should have from a structural point of view and going forward. So look forward to seeing what that looks like. And I certainly look forward to the way that they look at the common side of things in terms of how the fans are involved. That's been a big area of criticism for the previous board and for the club in general. And the CEO is the person who's normally in a company charged with what that looks like and what the engagement looks like. So I think that's another interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and there's another departure. Richard Kenyon's leaving as well. He's been part of the furniture for a long time. He was tasked with, as he put on his LinkedIn, he was tasked with filling Goodison Park up when he first came in a number of years ago, and he's certainly done that. And a number of people are now being moved on and replaced, and it looks like it's a fresh start. It's not only going to be a new team almost next season. It looks like there's going to be a new team behind the scenes as well. And
it's effectively a new executive leadership team. I don't know if the Angus Kinnear appointment was made first, and then he's went, look, this is what we need, that's what we need. But generally, the owners, what's positive, and this is what we asked for when Mashiri come in. We were all hoping for a new, fresh board, executive committee. Yeah. This is the structure going down. And as I say, you normally start with the CEO. You've then got the chief commercial officer, which I think they've called the chief stadium commercial officer, and Simon Hunter, and then Aaron Duckmanson, who's going to be the chief marketing officer, or So again, they're normally the two or three positions that are filled up first, and it's encouraging they've done that. And yeah, I think we look forward to further appointments now and to learn a little bit more about what the future structure looks like.
Going to close it out. I'm going to give you the would you rather, and want our listeners to get involved as well. But just before we do close the show, we've got 2 weeks off now, FA Cup weekends and an international break. A chance maybe to get some bodies back. I think that the manager said at the last press conference after the international break that Ndiaye and Calvert-Lewin will be close. We've seen Brozier and Chemt now coming back. All of a sudden, Judge, we might not be able to put two keepers on the bench. It'll be a full bench.
I know, yeah, it's been a while since he's done that, hasn't it? But yeah, look, that's really encouraging. I think it would be great going into that derby match to feel like we're going in with a few extra options and tools.
Yeah.
I mean, Calvert-Lewin's always been I say always, certainly in the last few years, has been one who's got up particularly for the derby match and has been a real threat to Liverpool. Ilman Ndiaye absolutely was and will be a threat to Liverpool. And
yeah.
I think it would just be the chances are it's Calvert-Lewin's last ever derby, so he'll be keen to make an impact. David Moyes typically found it difficult going to Anfield. I think he'll be keen to try and be on the front foot a little bit. I think that Liverpool players, as much as anyone, are going to benefit from that break as well. They look leggy in that final yesterday, so I think you'll see a very different Liverpool to the one we've seen yesterday and maybe against PSG over those two ties. And I think they need the break as much as some of our returning players do. But yeah, it adds an extra dimension, I think, to the derby match, and I'd be desperate more than anything else to see Ellerman and Zybach.
Absolutely. And the manager said that he's going to give the players some time off. There's going to be no warm weather training we've done that. He's going to give them time off, and then we'll regroup. Me and Judge might have a week off as well, and then get back in time for the Merseyside derby. But thanks for watching. If you do want to get involved in the Would You Rather, we've made this how we end the shows going forward. Please leave it in the comments. Judgy, sticking with a bitter theme. Would you rather? It's announced that PSR is dead. The Premier League and the FA, everybody, they just say spend what you want, and the free can say we have got the war chest of war chests, and we are the billionaires throwing money at it. Or breaking news: it's been found out that Liverpool Football Club were funded by and continue to be funded by money from crime. We are dissolving them and deleting their history.
Oh, I'd have to go for the second one. We've been in that first situation before, and there's no guarantees of success. Least of all, no guarantees of being more successful than they are. If anything, we seem to get worse, and they got better during that period when Mashiri first come in. I'd have to go for the second one. I just love to see the all the arguments and whatever.
It never happened. It never happened. You were never here.
I mean, unfortunately, the argument would be as we've had plasters all over social media and WhatsApp today. Or it doesn't matter. We still had the experience. You haven't had that experience, so you couldn't delete that, could you? So that would be the only doubt, because I don't think I'd pull the trigger straight away. I'd be leaning towards that second one, but then I'd start to think, hold on. They're still going to say, aren't they, it happened, didn't it? You can't say it didn't happen because we were there, we felt it, we experienced it. And what is, just because they take our trophies off us by name doesn't mean they took our memories away. So, my immediate reaction would be the second one, because it just made me smile when you said it. Whereas the first one, as I say, we've been there before and we've been burnt by that situation.
Fair enough. If anyone wants to get involved, leave us a Would You Rather in the comments. Like I said, we'll try and end the show on a little fun. The Judgy's turn next time we speak. And Judgy, if you give Judgy time, he can think of some killer Would You Rather. So I'll know him in for it next time we speak. But thank you for watching. Thank you as always to our amazing sponsor, Globe Gas and Heating. Lee was speaking to the guys from the Everton Heritage Society about doing some work for St. Luke. So it's a small world. We are all coming together to help each other on the podcast. So thanks to everyone who speaks to Lee and shouts across the park podcast at him, because he loves it. He's a big toffee. The Everton Heritage Society. Now, I'm not saying you guys, our listeners, are responsible for this, but from when they came on the channel just before it to just after the walkout's done to Wolves, there was a difference in £1,400 raised. And, it just shows the level of the platform that, we have, and you guys are so generous. We know some of you are obviously accountable for that. So a big thank you for helping the Everton Heritage Society. And if you've not watched the podcast with Rossi, Simon Ross we had in the studio, absolutely hilarious guy. He's got a really good couple of stories. So in the international break, get over and watch that over on the YouTube of Across the Park podcast. But thank you for watching. Happy St. Paddy's Day. Judgy, let's go and get a Guinness. Up the Toffees.